As promised, today we are going to build an eggplant themed house for my Very Veggie Legacy Challenge. Last week I showed you the carrot themed house that I built, and I mentioned that I hadn't posted the eggplant one yet, but today we are solving that problem and I'm gonna show you what I built for the eggplant gen. I do realize this might seem like a really bizarre concept, but basically it's a 10 generation legacy with each generation themed after a different vegetable. The second gen is eggplant. Everything is kind of purple themed. You're supposed to be evil, a bro, and romantic. You're gonna be in the romance consultant career, and you'll have the villainous Valentine aspiration, which are two things that maybe you wouldn't think to pair together. The description says, everyone won't shut up about romance. All day, every day, you have to listen to weird, suggestive eggplant jokes, people complaining about their partners, or even worse, them going on and on about their happy little relationships. You're sick of it. Love is dead, and you're going to prove it. You decide your life goal is to ruin as many relationships as possible. Well, at least when you're off the clock. You can't exactly quit your day job. Relationship saver by day, relationship ruiner by night. So the whole storyline is basically like, this person is the absolute worst romance counselor ever. They should not have this job. They are the last person who should be giving out relationship advice. But of course you have to max that career. And that aspiration, the villainous Valentine one, basically just has you cheating on people. You have to date and cheat on like 10 different people. And I added a couple of bonus rules where you have to wear the eggplant costume for every single one of your outfits. You have to grow giant eggplants from cottage living. You have to become a nectar connoisseur and then maintain a nectar cellar, which we'll add into our house. And you also have to max the romance, fitness, nectar making, and then dancing skills. And for this, I actually wrote a complete separate base game version if you wanted to play it like that instead. And I've got a couple of suggested pack replacements too, in case you don't have the packs that are required for the main version of the challenge. I just mentioned that because I feel like it's helpful when I'm showing the build for you to understand the kind of sim that we're building this for. And our sim who's gonna live here is named Eggplant. He lives here with his mom, Collie, who's from the broccoli gen. His dad is not living with us because he was unfortunately electrocuted. It was genuinely an accident. I swear it was not my fault. He has the chase by death trait and he works as like a handyman, so he's frequently repairing a bunch of broken things. And eventually we're gonna have one child who's gonna grow up to be the carrot generation sim. So this house actually isn't that big and it doesn't have that many bedrooms, but somehow it's extremely expensive and it took me a very long time to build, as you can see by the length of this video. And actually, speaking of bedrooms, now is probably a good time to talk a little bit about the sponsor of today's video, Helix Sleep. If you've been watching my channel for a long time now, you know Helix because they're a huge supporter of ours and I am a huge fan of theirs. I've been sleeping on a Helix mattress for about 4 years now and it is by far the most comfortable mattress I have ever slept on in my entire life. And I know it can be a little bit overwhelming shopping for a new mattress because like where do you even start? And buying it online can be a little bit scary, but Helix makes it so easy. They've got a sleep quiz on their website that'll help to match you to the perfect mattress for you based on your sleep preferences, and then they'll deliver that mattress straight to your door with free shipping in the US. Me and Dan got matched with the Helix Dusk, and we also have the Glaciotex cooling cover on it. It feels kind of silly to be mentioning that right now in December with like my Christmas tree behind me, but I live in Florida, so it's hot here year round and we need that, and it really does make a big difference. There's nothing worse than being hot when you're sleeping, and my parents have a really old not Helix mattress they've had for years, and they actually just got a mattress topper for it from Helix's new mattress topper collection. These can be a great option if you're trying to make your current mattress more comfortable without having to completely replace it, and they can also help to extend the life of an older mattress. So if you need a new mattress or maybe you want to upgrade your old one, I'm gonna link Helix Sleep down below. They've actually got an extended Cyber Monday offer on right now, so they're offering 27% off site-wide. You can go to helixsleep.com/lilsimsie to take advantage of that. And with that, I'm gonna get back into the Sims. So I thought we would build it in Tartosa because there's just something kind of funny about the guy who refuses to ever get married living in the wedding-themed world. And I also really like this lot up at the top of the cliff because there's a bunch of lavender plants around it, so it's very purple. And of course, that very much fits the vibe that we're going for. I mean, look at how pretty this is. The only problem is that it's 30 by 20, which is a little bit small for my legacy houses these days. I tend to need a lot more room for like random activities. So we're gonna have to build down into the basement. But I think that covers all of the introductions I wanted to do. So let's just jump straight into the speed build and I'll kind of walk you through what I've built. And I did build this live first over on my Twitch channel, although I built it a couple of months ago. I've got a really long backlog of speed builds because I build so much more than I actually post on YouTube. I'm like constantly building in this game. So this is one of those backlogged builds that I never quite posted here on YouTube, but I'm finally getting to it now. And the style is kind of this like country manor sort of vibe that I was going for. And you're probably looking at this right now and panicking a little bit because it does look really, really tiny. And it really isn't that big, but it's gonna be bigger than what you're seeing right now, I promise. It won't be as tiny as it looks. This is kind of a weird shaped lot too because it's horizontal instead of vertical. So we're gonna have a side yard instead of a backyard. But my main inspiration for this was just those Wedding Stories windows. I didn't really have a super clear vision for the exterior or the interior aside from me wanting to use those purple windows. That was kind of the only thing that I knew going into this was just purple windows because there's not a lot of purple options in this game. This was definitely kind of a difficult one for me to build just because it's very lacking in the purple department. And of course, for a build like this where the entire place is supposed to be only purple, that's kind of a problem. I also feel like Eggplant is not really like a super pretty countryside pastel purple kind of guy, but that's sort of what we ended up with here on this house. So I was kind of trying to combine the way I thought Eggplant would be with also the way I wanted the house to be, because I loved the idea of this house being kind of old. In my mind, it's like an old vineyard house, and then Greg has moved in and maybe like updated it a little bit to fit more of his personal vibe. And that's the other thing, because Greg is supposed to be kind of like this nectar connoisseur, I thought that living in Tartosa could be kind of smart. Obviously, Horse Ranch has all the nectar making stuff, so Chestnut Ridge is more of the actual nectar making world in game, but I think Tartosa totally works, because Tartosa is kind of Italy inspired, so I think it makes sense to have vineyards out here too. So that's sort of what I was trying to channel. It's like purple, slightly Italian inspired, but not really, because I don't think it looks like any one particular place. This house, it's sort of a mishmash of things, and obviously it's going to be kind of vineyard-like. The whole house is kind of just like a big box with a couple of smaller boxes attached to it, which if I were to offer you any advice for building in this game, that would probably be it. Think of your houses as like a box with other decorative boxes on the sides. I have the one like big bump out on the left, and we've got a smaller, almost like sunroom thing. Those big arch windows are from Romantic Garden stuff. And then I was thinking about other Romantic Garden stuff things that we could use and other items from like Wedding Stories that we could use. And this is where stuff kind of started to go downhill, because this is where I realized I hated all of the colors. At first, I was trying to use that really pretty fence from Wedding Stories, but I didn't like the beige accents on it. I loved that it had the purple flowers on top. I did not like the beige accents on the base. Then I wanted to have like purple wallpaper. I was trying to use Life and Death ones because it had this like slightly purple tone. Then I wanted to do the roof. I didn't like any of the roof options, like at all. I didn't like a single one of them. So I tried a bajillion different options there of different colors. I was at this point trying to make it more brown so it would match the fence more, but I didn't like the brown. I didn't want it to be brown. So we ended up swapping that out. What we get to in the end is actually the Jungle Adventure roof, but I think it might be a while until we change it. I think we're probably gonna have to sit here and stare at the wood color for a little while, but it's not gonna stay, I promise. I don't like this either. It was temporary, I swear. Every time we do one of these legacy builds, I feel like I have to sit here and ask you all to trust the process, because I get so picky about my own legacy houses. I think I'm picky with all of my builds. I'm kind of annoying and like indecisive in my build videos, but I'm even worse in my legacy ones. I think because I know that I'm gonna play in them for a long time, and like I care so deeply about the Sims that live here. It's a little bit different than when I'm just building a house because I want to build a house, because I don't have a sim in mind, or I'm not gonna play in that house, I'm just building it, so I don't need to sit there and like think about the roof for 20 minutes. I guess I would say maybe it just comes more naturally to me when I'm building for like other people, you know? Not that I'm always building for someone else, but I sort of have like these imaginary clients in my mind when I'm building a house just to build. And when I'm building a house like this, I'm the client, and I'm a really annoying client apparently for Sims houses. But now I think at this point this is kind of the correct color scheme with the columns, and like I've got that Castle Estate kit foundation there, and I'm gonna go back through debug and we're gonna start looking to see if we can find any nice debug fences or like decor that we can put outside. I found that really cute pergola. That one is also from Wedding Stories, and it has the perfect purple flowers, so I wanted to use that. And then this little fence, this is actually a debug fence from Life and Death, but it's kind of low to the ground and it fit really well. So I put that around the outside. And then we have to add in a greenhouse. That is something I was kind of worried about, to be honest, the greenhouse, because this is not a very big lot. So trying to fit a greenhouse is kind of a tight squeeze, but I need the plants. We like really badly need to be able to sell nectar. So I need to grow the grapes myself. I can't be buying them. At first I wanted to use a glass roof. I even tried the glass roof and the glass walls on the main building. I didn't really like how they looked. So what I did in the end is I made a building ceiling, and I made it the perfect shape to be able to use the windows from Romantic Garden stuff. So I actually fit it perfectly to use the big arched windows instead. Right now I'm testing it out with the tiny ones, but I wanted to swap it out to be a little bit fancier, so we're gonna change that too. Although, well, I thought I did. Maybe it stays with just the Greenhouse Haven kit ones. But I was looking at the glass walls because I know we have the glass wall update now, and I just really struggle with the glass walls. I struggle to use them in spaces like this because they're like so specific and they don't really have nice swatches. Like I want to have white glass walls for this because that makes more sense to me for it to be big solid white panels. I don't really want to have that weird like gray toned color, and all the base game ones come in gray. They kind of have weird shapes to them. They aren't like supported. It looks so thin. I kind of prefer how the regular windows in game are more three-dimensional. They have like substance to them instead of just being completely flat. So I think the glass walls serve a purpose and they're like useful for specific occasions, but I just don't like using them in builds like this. I tried it on the bump out over here with the glass windows and it didn't work here. I also think the glass walls in general, I've found are more useful for me in modern builds and less in a house like this. But yeah, it's like when I'm trying to build a fish tank or some kind of cool, maybe like a waterfall edge pool or something, like that's more useful for the glass walls. And this is less of a helpful space for me to try them, at least in my own gameplay. I haven't successfully done it yet. I had a hard time with the back too, and like figuring out where the windows and doors and stuff should go on the back because it's kind of just plain and flat, and we're running out of space because it's a little bit tight up there. The lot is just small, so I couldn't really do all the pergola things that I wanted. But what I have is just kind of the flat wall and a big sliding door there. We've also put a couple bits of landscaping in. I've got these huge purple trees and then some purple flowers from Island Living that I'm kind of adding around the space. I attached the pergola to the greenhouse, and we're also still gonna have to try and fit in a shark pond, which you'll see me add in a minute. The shark pond's gonna go in like the front left corner of the lot, so it's a pretty tight squeeze. If you watched my most recent speed build last week, that one is like the house after this. I kind of posted them in backwards order, but we went from this house really small to a big 64 by 64 lot for gameplay, and so it's been kind of fun to switch and like move into such a massive space and have way more lot space, because here I was really trying to squeeze stuff in, right? But I think there's something kind of cute about it being a little bit more quaint anyway, so it's sad that I had to be so tight with it, but it also is cute that it's quaint. And this is just me adding in a few more plants. I got a couple different varieties of like green bushes and things to put on top of the flowers, because those are like a big pretty purple low-lying flower, so I was trying to add in some more greenery to break it all up and like make it look a little bit more 3D, because they're so flat and low. But this is kind of just about the full extent of the landscaping. I did add a few of those base game ones that I like so much too, because they're like the exact right color, and that's just about it. In the back, you'll see later on, I don't remember when I did it in the build, because I think we move into the inside pretty soon after this part, but in the back we have a little like outdoor kitchen underneath the pergola with a grill and stuff. I ended up putting a blanket, like a woohoo blanket, on this back patio. We have a telescope. There's going to be a chess table. I have to get a couple of planters too, because one of the rules is to grow eggplants, because it's kind of funny that it's the eggplant gen and you should grow eggplants in it, right? So we're gonna have a couple of planters too, but it's just it was kind of hard for me to squeeze that all into a relatively small backyard. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge of this build, is just trying to fit everything. I'm picking out a couple flooring colors right now for this greenhouse, and then I'm going back out and trying to squeeze in everything. At this point also of the build, I had forgotten about my shark pond, which is really shocking and upsetting. I'm sorry to admit. I can't imagine how I could have forgotten, but I need to like go back in and add that in. So I was thinking it was all gonna fit fine, and then I was like, oh, the sharks! So we had to last minute go back and redo the backyard later on in the video, but we're moving inside finally to start thinking about the floor plan, so I can try to explain to you things as we're going. You see, we have this kind of like long hallway front entrance. To the right of the front door is going to be the office, because I wanted Greg to have kind of like a fancy romance consultant office space. He doesn't actually take clients at home. That isn't how the career works. They just go to see him at work. He like goes to a rabbit hole career. But I kind of wanted to pretend that he had a fancy office space off the front door. And then to the left of the stairs, that's going to be a small little art studio, because Greg's mom, Collie, is from the Broccoli Gen, and the Broccoli Gen is an artist. And so she's super into painting. She used to have her own business. She does like pottery and stuff. So I needed a room to put all of her art supplies into. In the basement, we're gonna have a gym and also our nectar making room because we need to max the fitness skill and the nectar making skills. You can see those horrible blue counters. That's where the kitchen is gonna go. The counters themselves are just placeholders, but we'll make them pretty in the end. And there's like a 2x1 tiny room by the kitchen. That's actually gonna end up being a pantry. I really wanted to have a separate pantry space. Plus the room was kind of big, so I wanted to break it up a little bit more. The 2x1 space is a pantry, the 2x2 space is a bathroom. In between them is the dining room, and then the far side is just a living room. It'll make more sense once we start putting furniture in. And then upstairs, I managed to split it into 3 bedrooms. So we have a big fancy primary bedroom with an ensuite bathroom, and then grandma has a room, our non-existent child has a room, and then grandma has a room, and the kid, Rot, you watched Rot's house get built last week. Rot is gonna have a room as well upstairs. So it actually worked out really well. I didn't really want to have a lot of kids with this sim because in my own gameplay, his mom had 6 kids. So Collie, the Gen 1 sim, had 6 babies, and Greg was one of the 6. He was actually, there were twins, and then Greg, and then triplets. So he was like a weird middle child in between 2 sets of twins and triplets. And so I think that his middle child energy also really contributes to his personality. I think that's part of why he turned out so bad, like the way that he did. I think that really impacted him. So I kind of wanted to like swing the complete opposite direction and have just one kid in this generation because I was so sick of having so many Sims in my household. So that's part of why I made it so small. I couldn't handle that many kids. 6 kids is too many. Nobody should have twins and triplets. Like that's just too far. So we ended up having just the one kid. Only Rot was born in this generation, and Rot was actually a risky woohoo baby. Rot's other dad, unfortunately, is also kind of bad. So they have Eggplant, and then they also have this sim called Jonathan Bell, which is so funny because it sounds like Bell from my YouTube Legacy Challenge because they're the Bell family, but he's actually related to Michael Bell, who's the creature keeper in Cottage Living. His parents were Olive Spectre from Life and Death and Michael Bell from Cottage Living. They had an autonomous baby together, and then now we have our sim Rot. Oh, I should clarify. The sim's name is Rot, like carrot. Carrot. I know it sounds bad. It grows on you. It grows on you. It's weirder than Eggplant is, but I think it's kind of funny. So that's my sim's name. That's who I'm talking about. But I think that's the whole floor plan figured out now. We're just trying to like add in some pathways, and I was trying to visualize how the space would fit together. But we've got sort of the idea of the house all laid out, and pretty soon we're gonna actually start jumping in and furnishing it. But first I gotta get my shark pond, obviously, because that's the most important part of the whole build. In this legacy, I tend to collect graves, which also sounds kind of creepy. But I usually just keep the graves all in my front yard, like laid out by the front stairs. I just finished a legacy that I played on Twitch, and I had like 1,000 graves by the end of it because I would go and collect graves from all the townies in the world. This one, we're just starting out. I only have 11 graves right now. I know that sounds like a lot of graves. It's not really though, because in legacy challenges, think about this, right? I had Collie and her husband Brock. They had 6 kids. That's already 8 graves. A bunch of those 6 kids had partners. They had kids themselves. So already after just one generation, we have loads of Sims that are gonna have graves. So it's not as bad as it seems. They all just die of old age mostly. Everybody has pets. I bring their graves home. So they multiply very quickly. The graves that I have multiply. For a second here, I was trying to think about putting a trellis or something outside, but I didn't really like how the trellis items looked. And then I thought about using wisteria instead. This is just like the Cottage Living wisteria. I struggle to use this stuff because I think it looks kind of awkward, the shape of it, but I thought I would test it out and try to fit it in here. This is actually from, believe it or not, before Enchanted by Nature came out. I built the whole exterior and then I was like, okay, we'll finish it once we have the new pack. I actually ended up not using basically anything from Enchanted by Nature in this build. I had hoped when I heard about the pack, it would be like really good and we could use it in the build, but there isn't a lot of purple, at least not the shade of purple that I want. And also the build furniture style from that pack didn't really work in here either. So it was wishful thinking, but now we are post Enchanted by Nature in this clip and we're starting with the furnishings. I think that this room is kind of a departure from the style of the exterior, but this is gonna kind of dictate the style of the whole house because I think Greg has a lot of this like dark purple, black accents, kind of fancy and modern, and I really like that accent wall because I like how it had the pretty purple flowers and it wasn't just like plain solid color. Whenever I build these houses for Very Veggie, I always say that they're supposed to be like purple with an accent of purple. They aren't really supposed to have accent colors. I want to like really commit to the bit with the color scheme, but of course there's gonna be some exceptions to that rule. Like, not everything can be only purple. I mean, even like we have brown floors. We have just plain wood floors. And then of course this wallpaper isn't only purple, but the purple is a main feature of it. And so I think it's acceptable for us to use. At this point, I was trying to have a little bit less of a modern style. I don't like the fireplace. I don't like the TV. We ended up switching it out for a really expensive TV. I was really cutting it close with the budget on this house. At this point, we had a pretty good amount of money because Greg's mom had run that great business from Businesses and Hobbies, but we didn't really have that much money yet at this point. So we were kind of struggling a little bit for cash. I forget what the budget was in the end of this house, but you can see I'm spending a lot of it already. But now, I mean, you just watched me build a 64 by 64 lot mansion. Greg made so much money from Nectar. If you make and age Nectar in The Sims 4, you can get like 50 to 100K just from like one big batch sale. If you sell it to the crinkle top guy, especially. Oh my God, this is like one of those sentences that if you say it out of context to a non-simmer, oh, you can make 100K if you sell it to that crinkle top guy. You know crinkle top from that pack? He buys Nectar for a higher price, so you can sell it to him and get rich. That's what I have done. It's been very successful. I'm also using the little purple decal. This is from Enchanted by Nature, actually. It's like a purple moth decal. I use that as the tile backsplash, and then I fit the kitchen in around it. We've got a couple like open shelves. I've got some pretty cabinetry. I was really happy with how the kitchen turned out. I think that once we got to this point, we kind of hit our stride with the build. But while Past Simsie sits here and tries to figure out the rest of this downstairs floor plan, I think I'm probably gonna do my little life update segment of the speed build. We tend to just yap a little bit about things that aren't necessarily only Sims related in these builds, and this is that portion of the video. Welcome. My update is about Christmas because I have been sewing my Christmas gifts for my family. I started sewing last year. Honestly, it was like this time last year that I got my sewing machine. So I've been sewing for a full year now. I would say I'm still like confident beginner level. I'm no expert, but I'm getting pretty good. I've made a few quilts. I make a lot of bags. I like to make book sleeves and stuff like that. But I was trying to sew Christmas presents for my family. I have sewn the biggest one. I need to be like kind of vague just in case of this video, but I've sewn the biggest thing, and I'm working on some of the rest of them, and we're gonna have enough time. We'll be done in time for Christmas, thankfully. I was worried about that. I was like, how am I gonna finish all these things in time? You have to start so early. I started in October with one of them. But this is my first year sewing Christmas presents because I think I got my sewing machine as a Christmas gift to myself last year. I forget when I exactly bought it. I bought it before Christmas, but I was in no position to sew anybody a gift last year. It's a steep learning curve, but now we're doing a lot better. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that. I'm excited about it. Maybe I'll show you the things that I sewed after Christmas is over if you're curious to see them. I can't be posting that stuff right now. My family's gonna see it. But I've been really liking sewing. It's been fun to have a hobby that's like completely offline. You know what I mean? Because most of the stuff that I do, like my hobbies and the things that I like, are very sit right here at my desk and play my little games coded. So it's kind of nice to have a hobby that is completely separate from that. And it's like not work related in the slightest. It's fun to be creative and like make something with your hands. So I've really been enjoying doing that. And it's also just a useful skill to have. Like I've really been proud of myself with that. I'm trying to, in these speed builds, always mention something positive. So that's my positive. I'm proud of myself and the progress I have made. I'm curious if you've got anything that you're proud of right now. Let us know in the comments down below. It doesn't need to be anything big. You don't need to have some kind of new skill. Maybe you did a cool coloring page this week. I don't know. I mean, that's also a skill. That's a big skill. Coloring is hard to make those like fancy ones with the fancy markers. Maybe you cooked a nice dinner. I don't know. Anything you are proud of yourself for, let us know in the comments because I think it's kind of fun to celebrate each other like that. And now we are going downstairs because we are going to work on like the hobby room of this house. Kind of a fitting segue there for us to jump into. So this thing doesn't actually need the mixology skill, but I felt like having a bar area made a lot of sense for this type of sim who's like really into nectar making and stuff. And so I made the main room of the downstairs basement be very nectar focused, and we have like the bar, we've got some like hanging nectar bottles and stuff. I have the same tile I use down here, but we also have a lot of brick accents. It's like darker and kind of like wine cellar coated. And then through those pretty glass doors doors, that's gonna be the gym space. So I'm gonna have all of our gym equipment in there. It's funny because this actually predates Adventure Weights. So we didn't have the new stuff. I didn't have like the spin bike or the weights or anything. I would have loved to have used those in here, but we weren't able to in this one. I did just shove the nectar maker kind of in the corner because it's so ugly and the swatches don't really match anything. It's like kind of hard to use. So I kind of just put it back there, and there's a tiny extra bathroom because in this house, there's a bathroom down here in the basement. There's a half bathroom on the ground floor with no shower, just a toilet. And then upstairs on the top floor, there's 2 bathrooms. But we were gonna have quite a few Sims in here, and it's just nice to have more bathrooms, especially in like a luxury style house. So I tried to sneak a bathroom down here. Plus then if you're gonna like need to shower after the gym, there's one close by. I'm pretty sure that in the speed build, I built that fancy bathroom that you're gonna see in a minute. And then when I went to move in, I couldn't afford it, so I had to delete it, and then I had to put it back once I had more money. So this was kind of an aspirational concept, this house, I think. There were some things that I put down knowing I would use them eventually, but maybe couldn't have straight away. And then I wanted to have this huge gallery wall downstairs because we're gonna have so many partners. I wanted to have like all these fancy walls of Greg's previous flings. And you know what? One of the biggest issues budget-wise in this house, I just saw myself put it everywhere in the bathroom, those tile decals are like 150 simoleons each. So you'd think, oh, it's just a cute little tile decal. It's cheap. It's easy to use as decor. No. We spent like thousands of simoleons on just those tile wall pieces. Sometimes the pricing in this game is just a complete mess because there are decals that cost like 2 simoleons. This one feels like it should be cheap, but no, alas, it is not. You can build an entire wall for cheaper than that. You can buy a window for cheaper than that. And in real life, windows are like one of the most expensive things in your entire house, but I'll stop. I'm sorry. I'm just putting some last minute decor down. I actually used the Love Struck furniture inside of this gym because it's really purple. It kind of is pink, but I think that, you know, there's some level of overlap between the two. So I used those in here, and I kind of put some fun neon lights as well because it felt like kind of fancy and funky to have some bright, fancy lighting down here. I also just like that Love Struck gym equipment. I think it's cooler than some of the other ones. I feel like a lot of the gym equipment in this game is like really chunky. It's just like big. And I think that this stuff being a little bit more wire framed is more realistic. I'm not a gym expert, but this feels more like what I see in real life more often. We also have some clutter things. There are weights in here, but those are just the Love Struck weights. They're not functional. It's kind of confusing because there's 2 decorative weight objects from Love Struck, and then there's like the real functional weight object from Adventure Weights. And the functional one is like 4 times the size of the decorative ones. Not even kidding. You could probably fit 4, maybe even 5 or 6 of the small ones in the big functional one. But when they do functional things like that in game, they tend to make them really, really oversized. I think because the animating is easier for them. But yeah, the new functional weights probably wouldn't even fit in there if we wanted them to be. This next room is a big departure from the rest of the house. It's green, and that's because it's supposed to be for the previous gen sim. So Eggplant's mom, Collie, was the green gen. She's the artist. I like doing that in these houses because it's kind of fun to have like the color theme thing for each gen. So Collie's bedroom will be green too. And then eventually we're gonna have like Rot's bedroom, it'll be orange. So the only other colors are in like the outside spaces, the spaces that belong to other Sims. In here I used a lot of businesses and hobbies and also the artist studio kit so we could fit all the functional stuff that we needed. It's pretty tight in this space. It isn't a very big studio, but I'm glad we managed to squeeze one in. I also, poor Collie, she died really soon after we moved into this house, unfortunately. So I'm talking as though this hasn't happened yet, but this was actually a couple months ago for me in real life. I built this whole fancy house. I spent hours and hours making her this fancy studio. I think she lived here for like maybe a week in game, which sounds like a long time, but not really after you put all that work. I lived here for weeks in game after that. You know, I never deleted her studio. I just felt too guilty doing it. It has been really fun to have an artist as the first generation though, because she's made me so many crafts that I can hang up in the house. I don't have a lot of them on these walls right now, but I end up in the end when I start playing in the house, I added like my marriage certificate and my family photos, and like Collie was also into knitting, so she made loads of little yarn things. We've got lots of paintings. So maybe that's actually some good advice. Even if you're not playing with, you know, a very veggie legacy, for example, I would recommend making a sim in your first couple generations be super crafty, because it's fun to have stuff that you can keep as family heirlooms. Like there's something really neat in a legacy about having art made by the Gen 1 sim still when you're in like Gen 10 and you still got it on your wall. And I love an heirloom. Like the life and death heirloom stuff, I love using that in Legacies. Anyway, for a second there, I thought about making this tiny closet into a laundry room, and I realized my mistake. I'm not doing that. I wasn't gonna play with laundry here, I know myself. So I changed it into a pantry instead. It's very tiny. It's just the one counter with a little bit of decor and one waffle maker, but I think it's nice to split up the room and have some more shape to the room. And then this is the last main room downstairs. This is gonna be the office, so it's like Greg's fancy romance consultant office area. I used a lot of purple in here, especially the Love Struck purple stuff, because Love Struck has like that purple desk. Oh, I changed it to black. Okay, I lied. I used the black desk from the base game, not the Love Struck purple one. I didn't remember changing that, I'm sorry. There's also like this lip sofa from Love Struck. It's technically a career reward from this career, but I just used it anyway. I sort of like ignore gameplay unlocks that one, but I think it was cool to have because it's so fitting for this sim. So I put that on the wall. I have just like some decor. There ends up being some certificates you get from this career, so I hung those up eventually. And I also used this room just to put a lot of the other decor that we had. I mean, I had like handcrafted wood objects. I have an eggplant frog that I found. I used that in here because obviously the eggplant sim needs the eggplant frog. I think I cut out some of that random decorating because most of that I did like from my household inventory once I moved in. So I don't think that stuff is on the gallery version of this, but I'll show you a little bit of it at the end. And now we're going upstairs to finally start working on the bedrooms. The first one is Eggplant's. Obviously the most important one is Eggplant's. And we're starting with the vibrating heart bed. That was like the original concept. Oh, you can see the frog on the floor. Okay, good. So if you see a random frog, that is the eggplant frog I was telling you about. I had a really hard time with the color scheme of this room. I went back and forth a lot about what color I wanted to use and what furniture I wanted to use because all the purples were so different. There's like this cool tone purple, then there's like some nice pastels, there's like that horrible magenta one from the base game, and none of them match. And also this bed, I wanted to use this bed so badly because it's like so perfect for the sim, but the colors are so hard to use because there's like black and then one of them has like cheetah print, there's like a zebra thing, and it just was hard to know what made the most sense for in here. But just trust me on it. It comes together sort of somehow in the end. Greg also has a closet, and I put the little costume trunk in there. When we were streaming this, we were joking a lot about like Greg and his outfit choices because this sim only wears the eggplant costume. He has no other clothes, only the eggplant costume. So we were all kind of theorizing and joking like, do you think that Greg has more than one of the eggplant costumes, or does he only have the one and he just keeps wearing it? And like, what's the situation with like his like other clothing? Like, do you think Greg wears like socks, underwear? Like, I don't know. It's very interesting to discuss possibilities there with Greg and like his eggplant costume choices. It's kind of funny too because like in his cold weather he's got like tights and some gloves and a hat. In his party wear he's got some fancy sunglasses with it. So I tried to like make them into other outfits despite the fact that he only could wear the one thing. I don't know if in the future I would write a legacy rule where a sim has to only wear one item of clothing because it is kind of weird, but I think that this sim is weird. It's been kind of funny to play with him because it's so different from how I usually play Sims. I never wear the eggplant costume. I never cheat on my Sims partners. Like, I just don't really play this way. So it's been kind of fun to play as somebody who's evil and just be different than my normal gameplay. He like gets into fights. He's constantly cheating on his partners. Like, we even had this whole storyline where he was dating this Sim called Eden Landgrab, who was Nancy Landgrab's daughter. They've been together since high school. It probably would have been like 30 years because they were together for so long into his adult life. He cheated on her the entire time. And it was really fun for me to play where like I was rooting for Eden. Like usually in my gameplay, I feel like my sim is the victim in situations. Mostly because I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm like killing sims all the time and stuff. So it was just an interesting change of pace to be like rooting for the other sim that wasn't our sim. Like we were the bad guy and we liked her better. We don't even like our sim. I like Eden. And so after dating her for all this time and like messing with her for all this time, on Christmas Day, finally, like just recently in my own gameplay, it's Winterfest. Eden dumps Eggplant. Everybody cheers. My chat's so excited. And then the Christmas tree catches on fire. I don't think I've ever had the Christmas tree catch on fire before, but the thing lit on fire. It was like a weird omen. But Eden is finally free of Greg. She's no longer with him, thank God. So it's just been kind of like an interesting storyline that's different from my usual stuff. So I've liked playing with this sim, even though I don't like this sim. I don't like him, but I like his house and I like his ex-girlfriend. So that's a weird way of putting it, but you know, this next room, this is gonna be Greg's mom's room. It's like the green gen, obviously, you can tell. I really like how this room turned out. I think the furniture in here is really pretty. I just like green, and there's a lot of green in game, so it's very easy to decorate green spaces in The Sims because so much of the game comes in green tones. The windows are in kind of a weird spot, so I definitely struggled with that part. It was hard for me to figure out where to put them. I had to like let the curtain clip in the wall, and I just put a closet there to like block the weird curtain clipping. I was very frustrated by that part, but it's fine. You know, you can't always win. They have a desk in here. I've got some house plants. It was fun also because Collie was a potter, so she made a lot of those potted plants. I ended up replacing them with ones that she had made herself, and I didn't take care of them. I've done a really bad job of using house plants in game. They always die. I'm so bad at house plants in The Sims. I don't like kill plants in real life. I don't know what it is about me. It's like in The Sims, because I would say I'm a good pet owner in real life too. You know, like my cats are my whole world. But in The Sims, my Sims pets just run away all the time. My plants die. Like, I don't do my laundry in game. Like, I'm really bad at keeping up with household chores in The Sims, and that plant is a good example of that. It died. It really died. I like this bedroom though because it had that shelf above the bed. I thought that was kind of cute. We've got like some decor on top of it. I have some more pottery and stuff that we used, some like yarn stuff that Collie had made. I think we also ended up putting a dog bed in here in this big open space. I don't know if it's, yeah, I did, okay. I wasn't sure if I put it in this big build or not because there are things that I remember. It's hard when you've been playing in a house for a long time. It's like, did I add that later on in my own gameplay, or was that there originally in the speed build? I'm not sure. I did not furnish the orange bedroom in this video because I didn't have a baby yet when I recorded this. So we're just going back outside to start working a little bit more on the exterior. I'm putting in some like landscaping and stuff and like random decor. This space, for a second, I was thinking about having an outdoor kitchen on the patio right off the real kitchen, but I didn't really like how it fit. So we moved that and I put it underneath the pergola. Oh no, actually what happened was I already had a kitchen underneath the pergola and I started to add a second one. And then chat was like, Kayla, you don't need to have 2 outdoor kitchens. You know how that happened? It's because I recorded half the build and then I stopped and did Enchanted by Nature. Oh my god, so many packs this year. And then I came back and finished the build afterwards. So there was a longer gap in between the segments than normal. So I had forgotten that I already had a grill. But on this patio, I just have chests and then that really horrible cheetah print blanket. I think that thing is so weird looking. I never use that swatch, but I tried to make it happen here just because it's different. I think it's fun to try and use stuff that you wouldn't normally go for. And then we also added in some nice plants. I guess I did actually use the Enchanted by Nature greenery instead of the cottage living stuff. I really don't like the cottage living one very much. I think it's too small, but I used the new one. So we have some nice vines and ivy and stuff. We also have yoga on that balcony off of Greg's bedroom. And this is just me adding in those little like last minute finishing touches, final details here to fill in some of the empty space on the walls. We were really cutting it close with funds. As you can see, I only have like 600 simoleons left. So I didn't have a lot of money left to put other little decor pieces. That's why I had to delete some things when I moved in. But we're just doing some terrain paint now. And then that just about covers the entire build. I've been talking so fast and so much. I'm so sorry. I just was going and going and going in this video. But that's how speed builds tend to go for me. So my apologies. But let me pause it here because we're just about done. And I want to jump back into the game and give you a tour of the finished product. So as a reminder, we're on that 30 by 20 lot in the very back corner of Tortosa. This is what it looks like when it is empty. And I'm gonna turn on move objects before I place this so I don't mess anything up. I'm kind of scared to see how far we have to scroll back to find the build. Let's see how long ago it was. Oh, here's Greg. This is Greg and that's Rot as a child. And then this is Greg with Rot as a teen. Just so now you can see the Sims. Here we go. Very veggie eggplant. Uploaded on the 19th of July. Oh no. How do I do this? But look how pretty the gallery photo looks. That's the first time I've maybe ever said that out loud. But with the mountains behind it, this lot is so nice. I really liked living here. It is 140,000 simoleons and it uses quite a few packs. Oh boy, 4 pages of packs on this one. I apologize for that. But let's place it so we can see what it looks like. I don't have that many backlogged builds left, by the way. This is one of the last ones, I promise. I try to mix in newer ones and then throw in some of these. But also in my defense, at this time, I built this and then there were 2 expansion packs that came out right away. 2 of them. But here is kind of a look at the exterior. You can see how we settled on that purple roof color. And then I added this purple carpet to the top. I think this is a little bit weird, but I feel like for what it is, it kind of makes sense. You know, like maybe I wouldn't normally choose that, but for this house, I think the purple on top makes sense. Around the outside over here, this is the shark pond that I was telling you about. We've got a couple of lounge chairs and some lemonade outside. I really did like the look of this. This part has just the grill and like an outdoor dining table. I forgot that this little candle thing comes in purple, so I used that. I'm gonna grow my eggplants right here on this thing. And then we have a really small greenhouse, but there's enough space to grow like grapes and apples and all the stuff that you need to make nectar out of. I also have a telescope right here so your Sims can die. And then on the back patio, we just looked at this, but we have the blanket and a chess table. When you first come into the house, like back around to the other side, this is kind of a top-down overview of the ground floor. So in here we have the entryway. I'll show you this part first. I have a lot of photo sections, like this photo space for us to put up family photos, kind of just like a little drop your keys kind of zone right here. This is Greg's office. It looks kind of empty, I feel like, because we don't have a lot of things on these shelves or on his desk, but bear in mind, when I played here, I put like snow globes I had collected and all kinds of just stuff. Wedding pictures and, you know, those sort of things on the walls. So it's kind of blank right now as a blank slate, so we've got room for our clutter. Greg also in high school was on the football team, so I put a jersey on the wall because I figure he's very much the kind of guy to be like really into his own high school achievements. He's like still living in high school. So he has like a shrine for his trophies that he puts up here too eventually. And then in here, this is the kitchen. I use this purple plant. I always forget about this swatch. It's so hard to use because it's such a bright color, but it makes so much sense for this room. So here's kind of like an overview of the kitchen. We have our sink, we've got our little counter space for cooking. I've got some cookbooks also in purple. And then we have that little tiny waffle room. Everybody in my chat would be like, hey, so why is the waffle maker in its own weird little room? It looks like an extension of the kitchen, but it's like shoved in the corner. It does look really strange when the walls are cut away, but it's because it's a pantry. I wanted to have a pantry. Weirdly, the pantry has a really fancy window, but I liked the shape. And then down this way, we have a very small bathroom right here. We've got some food bowls, some more artwork, and then up a little step, we've got the living room. I've got some space for the dog. We have a piano. You know, I use this little object from Get Famous. I always forget about this too, but it kind of works. I feel like it brings the colors together nicely. And then this is Collie's little art studio right here. There's a broccoli picture from the kitchen clutter kit, so I used that. It was perfect. And then in the basement, this is like a top-down overview of this. I really think that the main space is very fancy and very trendy. So I was pretty happy with all of this. But we also have that bathroom. This is the stuff that I straight up just deleted when I first moved in, and I added it back later on once I had more money because I couldn't afford all of it. And then in here we have the gym. There isn't even a shower down here. Like, it's so tiny, but anyway, this is the gym space. And then if you go up the staircase in the main entryway up here, there's a very small hallway. I used this leaf rug. I never ever used that either, but I feel like it fit really well right here, so I put that in there. This is the hall bathroom. Just looks like this. And then we have an empty room for the orange gen. I had to cover this with a bed because the clipping from the roof, I couldn't get it to stop. No matter what I did, the roof clipped, so I apologize about that. I left it empty because we were out of money, so it had to be done. But then this is the green bedroom. It looks a little bit like this. We've just got some more decor on the walls. And then here is Greg's primary suite. So he's got a sort of interesting color scheme. I'm not sure if I like it, but it is different, so I'm glad we tried it. He has his own balcony right here with yoga. And then he also has a fancy ensuite bathroom right here, and then a little closet too. So I tried to give him something different. I was trying to branch out a little bit with that. So hopefully you like how it turned out. And I think with that, I have finished the speed build. We have yapped enough. So hopefully you enjoyed the process. If you want to watch my Twitch streams, I'll link my stream down below. It's just lilsimsie on Twitch. I'll also link my second channel, More Simsie, because if you want, you could go back and you could watch this series. You could also start watching from like right now because we're kind of in the next generation. This sim, the one who doesn't exist right now, we're playing with them and they just grew up. So it's a good time to start watching. And I'll also link those Very Veggie rules so you can play it for yourself if you wanted to. And thank you again to Helix Sleep for sponsoring today's video. They've got that extended Cyber Monday offer right now where they're giving 27% off site-wide. So I'm gonna have helixsleep.com/lilsimsie linked down below for you. If you're in the market for a new mattress, make sure you check that out. Thank you for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'm gonna catch you all tomorrow. Okay? Bye, everybody. I wore my purple shirt for this. I was trying to be dressed for the part. I was trying to like dress up for the occasion.